Hi, I'm Khairil in Bahar, and for the past few years, I have felt like a complete failure. Now, I know that was a pretty dramatic way to start a video blog, and truth be told, it's been something that's been on my mind a lot recently to do this video. Part of it is personal therapy. Part of it is my constant aim to try and be like my idol, Kevin Smith. And one of the things he's famously known for is being totally upfront about everything that's been going on in his life and just posting everything on social media. So here's me putting things on Front Street, as they say. I don't know, just thinking about these feelings that I've had about failure. I've kind of gotten fascinated by it, and also about how a lot of people don't really like to talk about failure. We live in a world where social media is such that we're always trying to present the best of us, even if it's not true. Believe me, it's total first world problems. And I have not lost sight of the fact that I'm extremely grateful that I have the career that I have and the life that I have. But that's the thing, feeling like a failure can seriously affect you in really fucked up ways. Over the past few months, I've really realized how much feeling like a failure has affected me and my work and my attitude to life and just the stuff that I do. So fuck it, let's talk about it. See, the thing is, I've felt like a failure most of my life. You know, growing up, that's how I felt. I was never the best at anything. I never won first place in anything much. I always thought of myself as like, I always told myself like, oh wow, you're second best or lower. And it's an attitude and it's a feeling about myself and a lack of self-confidence that I carried all the way through to when I started making movies. By assuming that I was crap and that everyone thinks that I'm crap, well fine, I'll just do whatever the hell I want. You know, everyone's gonna think it's crap anyway, I'll just do it for myself. And that's how I made my first movie, Cheapla. And that's how I got a career. You know, I approached that movie thinking that only a handful of people are gonna watch it. I didn't care, I just wanted to make a movie for myself. I didn't aim to make a great movie. I didn't aim to get into this industry and have a career. I just wanted to make a movie so that I wouldn't regret not ever making a movie, because that was my dream. And it was a great defense mechanism because, you know, if people point out, oh, it's shitty and handheld and looks so low budget, I'd just be like, yeah, I know, right? That was the no budget indie badge that I wore with absolute pride, because by approaching life that way, I wouldn't have to deal with the pain of criticism. You know, what I realized happened over time though, is that, you know, I couldn't deny that I felt like I was getting better as a filmmaker, getting better in my craft, and having that kind of perception that, you know, you're the crappy, no budget guy, started to bug me. Like the amount of press clippings that I'd get for either Cheapla or Relationship Status after that, they would say great things about the story and the acting and the writing, but there'd always be a caveat like, if only he had a bit more money or a better cinematographer or better sound equipment or this or that. It started to suck hearing that over and over again. I also realized it was affecting my career advancement because my movies didn't make money. Like, they made back their money, you know, but if you looked at just box office figures, they weren't great. I foolishly thought that if I could make something without a budget and show that I could tell a story, mainstream studios would come a knocking going, oh look, if that's what you can do with nothing, let's see what you can do when you have something. And things didn't turn out that way. So around 2013, I started a production company with a bunch of partners, and our flagship movie was a movie called Chua. It was 5 directors combined together to make one movie, but not in an anthology. They were all edited together. And at that point, I was in the mindset to try and prove myself to the industry, to all those people that made criticisms about me, to myself, you know, that I wasn't all those things that I had been pointed out as over the years. That I wasn't just the no budget guy. I felt responsibility as one of the company directors to, you know, make this movie successful. But deep down it was more, I just wanted to prove something with this movie. And I set myself a very ridiculous bar to reach. I set myself a monetary box office figure as my goal for Chua, an independent movie that was showing in a handful of screens 3 to 5 times a day. I worked my ass off on that movie. I don't think I've worked on any other movie as much as I have on that movie. I wrote, directed, and shot my own segment, shot and edited Charmaine's segment. I pieced everyone's short films together. I recorded some of the score, subtitles with my wife, just typing the subtitles at home, designed the poster, did the photography for the poster, the website, designed the whole website by myself. Yeah, I did a lot for that movie. To me, this was going to be the one, to showcase how good I could be. And after the first week of the movie coming out, it became very obvious that that wasn't the case. Like, that wasn't going to happen. I got the box office figures from the cinema, and it was very obvious that it would never make the numbers that I had in my head. And I broke down completely. I don't think I've ever reacted like that to a movie release ever, because usually the aim was to release the movie, and that was the joy. But I was thinking box office, and I was crushed. I was sincerely crushed. And that's the thing, no one else had this expectation of me. My other partners in the company, to them the movie was a calling card. They didn't expect it to be this huge blockbuster. And none of the directors, the producers, I don't think that's what anyone's expectation was. The expectation for them was to make a good movie, which we did. At least that's what I think, And I remember around that time as well, I felt a lot of resentment for the people around me, the other directors, my producer, my partners. I felt like, no one understood just how much work I was putting into it. I felt like no one else had to do as much work as I had to try and make that movie. I resented the other directors because they got to enjoy the premiere and enjoy the feedback on the movie and enjoy a movie being released. I couldn't enjoy myself. And after my perceived failure, I actually very consciously withdrew myself from being in contact with the people that worked on the movie with me. So for all of you who might be watching this, who worked on the movie with me, I'm sorry. That's what I was going through, and that's why I suddenly stopped hanging out with y'all as much as I used to. It wasn't because we didn't have a movie to do, it was because I looking at you guys would remind me of those feelings, those emotions. And I'm sorry. I really am sorry about that. And it's not just you guys that I withdrew from. I withdrew from narrative filmmaking and short films, movies, whatever. I did the filmmaking stuff that I needed to do for the company, which, I'll be honest, I could have done with one eye closed. It's weird, like, the best way I can describe it is like, it was like going through a breakup. My heart was crushed. And I had a very hard time dealing with that feeling of being a failure, because I never felt like that about filmmaking. I never felt like I'd fucked up as a filmmaker. It was a very dumb move of me to put that box office figure, but at that time I was also a very angry person. Like, I was basically driven by anger around that year. That's how I did stuff. Also, the fact that I reacted so big, a lot of it is also due to the fact that I have depression. I was diagnosed with depression in, I think, 2002, around there. I was on Prozac and Xanax and Zoloft. One particularly bad time I was on Valium. That was fucked up. I was in therapy once a week. I was dealing with a lot of shit, and I came through the other side. I weaned myself off the medication, I think around 2003, maybe 2004, because I realized whilst being on, that medication, it was very hard for me to write. It was very hard for me to be creative and be expressive. Because that's the thing, one thing that people assume with antidepressants is that they make you happy. They don't. They just don't make you sad. So I weaned myself off it, and for the most part of my life, it's been okay. But when the lows hit, they are very fucking low. It takes a lot of energy to pull yourself back out of it. And around that time when Chew Out was released, I wasn't strong enough. I didn't realize just how much it has affected me these past few years until around the end of last year. It's really, really affected me in a big bad way, because I withdrew from filmmaking and looked for other things to, be creative in. I wanted to feel that feeling of something new and learning and being creative for the sake of it. So I did a whole bunch of stuff. I started designing t-shirts and silk screening. I started skateboarding again. I started doing photography again and shooting on film cameras and learning how to develop film. Spray paint stenciling. I made paracord bracelets. I had a lot of fun doing those things at the time, but they weren't fulfilling me the way that filmmaking does. In retrospect, I look back and I think I was trying to find something else to do besides filmmaking. I was searching for something else that I could be good at creatively so that I wouldn't have to be a filmmaker again. I never consciously thought about it at the time, but I think that's what I was doing, trying to find a way out. Like I said before, no one had that expectation of me with that movie, but that's the expectation I had of myself, and I failed it. And I felt like a complete and utter failure. Over the past 2-3 years as well, I had another movie come out, Showdown, which was a big mainstream commercial movie. And, I didn't have the type of expectations I had for Chew Out with that one. But the thing with Showdown was, it was my first big mainstream film. My hope with that movie was that it would open some more doors in the industry, because a lot of doors I've always felt were closed to me because of my background as an independent filmmaker. Like within the mainstream industry, it always felt like if you're an indie filmmaker, you're just an indie filmmaker. You make those artsy movies where people stare out a window with a cigarette for like 2 minutes on a locked shot. That was the general assumption if you're an indie filmmaker, that you don't know how to make a real movie. That was my expectation with Showdown, like, here we go, I'm making a real movie. I enjoyed making that movie. There were some tough times, can't be denied. But, I was proud of that movie. And it came out in 2016, and it didn't really make an impact at all. Like, it didn't flop. That was what's good. It didn't flop, but it wasn't a hit either. The way I would describe it is that it existed. That movie existed in that month, and some people saw it and some people didn't. And then when the run was done, it stopped existing, and that's that. That wasn't, upsetting. I didn't break down, but it was kind of deflating, because with that experience, it felt like it would have made no difference if I made that movie or not. It didn't open any new doors. It didn't legitimize me like I thought it would. It didn't make that much of a difference to my career, if I can be honest. Like the more I think about it, Relationship Status made more of an impact on my career than Showdown did, And a fraction of the audience that saw Showdown saw Relationship Status. But that one kind of made a bigger impact. So, that just kind of felt like par for the course with that feeling I had of being a failure. I came to these realizations around the end of last year, when it really hit home that I stayed so far away from filmmaking that I didn't know how to get back in. I wrote hardly anything new throughout those few years. I did one short film, which was adapted from a short story from Fixie. So, It wasn't really me writing. That wasn't difficult. Apart from that, everything I did was just work. Corporate videos and ads and event videos, all kinds of stuff. That's all I did. And the thing was, I had an idea for a movie, and I realized I was afraid of writing it or moving forward with it. I was afraid to pursue it. I realized that it was a lot like a breakup. You know, you break up with the girl and there's a long period where you don't dare have a relationship again. What if you go through that same breakup experience and it sucks? Now that was a feeling and emotion that I was used to when it came to women, because I have been rejected by a lot of girls. But I wasn't used to that when it came to my passion, which was filmmaking. I wasn't used to that from my dream, from my career. That's not something that I was familiar with. And so I was afraid. You know, I was afraid of failings. And it really became obvious just how much I was afraid of making films again. I hadn't felt that much self-doubt and lack of confidence in my abilities since I was a teenager, thinking I was second best and a failure. You know, I thought I'd moved on from that feeling. I thought I'd moved on from that feeling of failure when it came to Chua. And I thought that the whole Showdown release didn't affect me as much as maybe it did, you know? See, that's the thing. It's like, we don't talk about this. We don't talk about failure because it's embarrassing. We want to talk about success. But you can't succeed without fucking up. That's just a fact of life. And the annoying thing is that when you fuck up, it hurts. You know, deep down, you know you got to keep moving forward. But for me, it was tough. I didn't want to accept that. Ever since I realized that that's how I've been feeling, you know, I've been trying to make a conscious decision to move forward and overcome all these things. And I actually started writing that script for that movie that I had in mind. You know, it was very slow and actually quite painful for me because I felt like I was writing for the first time. And it took a long time to actually write the script, whereas usually I will just type like a madman. Now, I would like to say that ever since realizing how failure has been affecting me, that everything is better, like I've moved on and everything's great. But the fact of the matter is that stuff is still inside, you know. It's actually very hard and a lot of hard work, especially, you know, being someone with depression. It's a lot of work just to get back up and continue and do it again. You know, I feel like I've separated myself from filmmaking for so long that everyone else has moved forward and I'm kind of still stuck in 2014, you know, and I'm still afraid, actually. I'm very afraid. I'm very afraid of making this movie. I'm afraid I'll sabotage myself from doing it. Because right after Chua, I actually wrote a script, you know. I was still in that very angry mode. And after Chua, I just felt like, fuck it, you know what? I gotta go make a small indie film and get back to my roots and do one of those things again. And I wrote this script, you know, so I was showing it to people. I was like, okay, we're gonna make this. And it kind of sizzled away. I basically stopped myself from making it because at the time, it felt like anxiety. Like, I gave myself so many excuses why I wasn't making the movie. Like, oh, it's going to be hard to cast. I don't think we can pull off at this budget. Where am I going to get a budget? No one's going to give me a budget. Oh, we can't move too quickly on this, and then it just kind of sizzled away. The thing is, if I wanted to make it, I would have made it. I didn't make it. And I realize now I was afraid, and I just sabotaged myself. I procrastinated and gave whatever number of excuses so that I wouldn't make that movie. I don't want that to happen with this one. I know what I need to do is just make stuff. And that's what I'm trying to get myself to do, you know, as much as I can. I've got that movie in the works. I've been working on my solo album, which I feel like I've been working on forever. A couple of short films and YouTube videos that I have in mind that I want to pull off. But At the same time, I can feel myself holding back. We live in an age where you can find out right on the dot whether someone likes what you do or not. And I'm afraid of what people are going to say. I've actually shot this video 3 times because I keep thinking it's not right or too long or not good enough. Even right now as I'm shooting it, I'm not even sure if I'm going to upload it because I'm afraid of what people are going to think too. But at the same time, I think we need to talk about fucking up, you know? Like, we need to talk about failure, and everyone's talking about how great and wonderful that life is. And the flip side of that is people talking about how shitty everything is. But I don't see that many people talking about how they fucked up. Failure has kind of been fascinating me these days because it affected me like that for years. That's crazy. And this is kind of like therapy. Like, I hope that, you know, by putting this out there, I'm not hiding it from anyone anymore, you know? Like, I'm not being all like, oh, everything's great. You know, don't get me wrong, things are great in my life. Like, I married a wonderful wife who was completely understanding of not just me, but my career and my eccentricities and my depression. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better woman to be my wife. You know, there's nothing really for me to complain about. But, you know, these things just get stuck in your head, you know, and they have a tendency to shape how you move forward or not move forward, you know. And I just want to do what I do. I don't want this to be the thing that holds me back anymore, because those past 2-3 years I could have been making more stuff, but instead I was making bracelets. You know, I want to be in love with filmmaking again and enjoy just making stuff with my friends, you know? And yeah, I guess that's it. I'm sure there's still a long way to go for me. Or maybe this feeling will remain with me for the rest of my life, I don't know. But I really do hope I get through the other side. 'Cause this fucking sucks. Yeah, that's all I got to say. Thanks for watching.